there are two things that I remember from Negotiation 101. And the first is to focus on needs, not positions. This means that rather than stick unwaveringly to your list of demands, you consider the other side's needs. And understanding their needs allows you to develop new solutions that nobody had ever considered. We even learned to tap our pencils on the table, to remind our co-negotiators that they should focus on needs when they get stuck on positions. Now, the second thing I remember is that not considering needs leads to a stalemate and worse outcomes. So positions become these war trenches that each side digs into, and they shoot anybody who ventures out into the open. And actually, there's a third thing I remember. There is a third thing. In one exercise, we had to negotiate for an orange. We were split up into groups of two, each with an orange. Those who met their objectives got to leave early and go to the pub. The class was in London, so it was a pub. And those who didn't had to erase the whiteboard or clean chalkboard or something. I don't know. But anyway, importantly, compromises were not allowed. A half orange wouldn't cut it. We needed to meet our objectives completely. So there we sat, glaring at each other over the orange, with the conviction that we really should be the ones to get the orange, but without many arguments to convince the other side to give it up. The pub beckoned. Someone tapped a pencil. Now, it seemed futile. We both needed the whole orange. But we looked deeper into our briefs and started talking about what we really needed the orange for. 5 minutes later, we were both at the pub. See, once we started looking into it together, we realized that one of us could meet their objectives with the peel, while the other needed the fruit. Peel the fruit, divide up the two parts, and we were out of there. Problem solved. If only congressional leaders were obligated to take Negotiation 101, we'd all be better off. Or maybe not, I suppose, since the real problem in the shutdown negotiation is the needs themselves. The Republicans want to demonstrate loyalty and commitment to the cause, while the Democrats are fighting for political legitimacy. To clarify the Republican position regarding the Democratic needs, Trump created an AI video of himself shitting on everybody he doesn't like. Message sent and, I imagine, received. The Republican strategy, to the extent that there is one at all, assumes that the Democratic positions are so out of touch with popular opinion that popular opinion will go against them and they'll have to give in. So rather than negotiate, they dig deeper into the trenches, refusing to come to the negotiating table, offering instead to negotiate after the Democrats agreed to a deal, which is a very interesting tactic that I'm sure we did not cover in Negotiations 101 because I would have remembered that one. And they've also laid off thousands of federal workers, not to mention tearing down the White House and buying private planes. Democrats, in response, dig into their own trenches and add the position that the government rehire everybody. And given the latest news, they may also insist that the president not tear down the rest of the White House, or maybe go so far as to insist that the government not use its military to threaten its own citizens, though Republicans may not be able to stomach that. I mean, we are, after all, the practicing ground for the military. Now, if you really think about it, one path forward would have been to come to an agreement and then have the Republicans renege on that agreement. They seem perfectly comfortable to do that. The Democrats would have known they'd renege, but the Republicans could have pretended to agree, and the Democrats could have acted surprised when they reneged. Politics goes on, government's open, we continue. Instead, the Republicans put up a giant middle finger, or I guess large amounts of AI-generated excrement, and have generally communicated no interest in living up to any deal they come away with. So we've eliminated even pretend middle ground. And the Republicans have no incentive to budge because, frankly, they're getting everything they want, which is apparently chaos and maximum economic damage. They seem almost gleeful about the shutdown. And Trump even found some way to sneak some money to a few people, specifically, mind you, specifically the ones with the guns, presumably so that they wouldn't storm the Capitol again. So, what's the path forward? Well, there are two issues that could break the stalemate. The first is air travel. Air traffic control will get messy as the already underpaid, understaffed, and overworked air traffic controllers start to suffer hunger pains after not being paid for an extended period. Remember that the biggest travel days of the year are just around the corner, and grounded commercial flights could make negotiating or make not negotiating very uncomfortable. If I were an air traffic controller, I'd call in sick and start looking for a job. And that is a power play that could easily push the Republicans to the negotiating table. The second issue is healthcare, right? Because premiums right now are skyrocketing and people are losing Medicaid, especially in traditionally Republican strongholds. So their constituents aren't going to be very happy. That's another one that could force the Republicans to the negotiating table. But the Republicans have demonstrated a remarkable ability to ignore what's actually going on, and their supporters have demonstrated a remarkable ability to not care. So the positions have been set, trenches have been dug, guns aimed. Anyone venturing into the no man's land of addressing needs will undoubtedly face political assassination. Maybe they could divvy up the orange in a way that meets everyone's needs, but they're too busy focused on winning the orchard to figure it out. This stalemate is going to drag on for some time. And the only real losers here are going to be all of us.